Hi, Barbara. How's it going?
Very good. Mike, sorry we got confused with the meetings. I was looking for personnel instead of governance and just blew it.
That's all right.
All right, so we will kick the meeting off at 6:03 p.m. And at this time, we will call for those who want to do the Pledge of Allegiance or a silent meditation at this time.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
One nation, under God,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so moving on to the approval of minutes from the September 2024 regular monthly business meeting.
So moved.
We have a second.
Second. So who's the second?
Bill,
Okay.
any discussion on the minutes or corrections or clarification? All right. All in favor of approving the minutes from the September 2024 meeting? Aye.
Aye.
One abstention. Anyone opposed? How does that work then if there's an abstention with the quorum?
Is Barb,
Technically, it's not supposed to count.
because it's not through the remote,
No, I count,
No, she can't.
was your address
I
of attendance
count,
published?
but not towards the quorum.
Well, but did you publish the address of the location that you're participating from? Like to get the notice and everything? Because we had the whole thing with the,
Yes, you're correct. I did not publish the address, so.
Do we have to wait to approve?
yeah, I think we're gonna have to wait because we only got four
Okay.
in person that are.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, right,
Downstairs for you.
just notes. We'll get it next time. All righty. And then going on to public input session.
Sorry, majority of people present.
No, it's a majority of
No.
full board. We
Oh,
always need at least five.
okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
What's up? What's that?
Public input.
Yes. Do you have any?
Yeah, the racism report that came out that I took a look at, and just a couple comments. Number one, obviously, there's no racism at the Gilman Public Library, which is good news. But what's disturbing to me when I read the report is that the cafe owners played the race card, which I think is a bad look for them. They were obviously frustrated with the way things were going. But I don't think it's a good look for them to have played the race card because it upset the entire community. We had that big meeting where everybody came out of the woodwork with the racism at the Gilman Public Library. And so I don't think that's good. I know the cafe has been on the schedule for a long time, last 4 or 5 years. And from what I've read, looks like the library pulled the trigger around 2021 to try to get the people to run the cafe. Specifically, no prospective vendors responded to a 2021 solicitation for the cafe. And so you eventually, obviously, you went out and you found someone to run the cafe. But a concern and somewhat of a red flag to me would be if it was such a great idea to run a cafe in the library, wouldn't you expect 3 or 4 people to come forward knocking on your door with proposals saying, we want to run a cafe? To me, that would be somewhat of a concern because it's kind of like we're throwing a party, but nobody wanted to come. So, I mean, that's history and it's water under the bridge, but to me, that's somewhat of a red flag, which is, we can't do anything about it now. But I read the report and everything that was out on the website, and I read all the articles in the Times Union and in the Altamont Enterprise regarding this whole issue. And one big takeaway from me, having read all that information, is that the people running the library, that's the trustees and the director, Tim Wiles, didn't know how to manage the relationship between the library and the cafe owners. And as a result of not being able to do that, the whole issue of the cafe turned into a total train wreck. Just an absolute failure. And some of the things in that report that can be pointed out, number one, before the cafe opened, you didn't even have agreement on certain things, which you should have had agreement on. Specifically, I'll give you 3 examples because we don't have 3 hours. The cafe or the kitchen that's off the Helderberg Room is really a cafe meant, or a kitchen meant for the use, to be used by the library. And the fact that you didn't get that squared away before the cafe even opened and told the people that own the cafe, this kitchen isn't going to be available to you cafe owners. Because by making it available to the cafe owners, you caused all kinds of contention and all kinds of confusion once the cafe got open, which was really unnecessary in my estimation. Secondly, cleaning the cafe. Why was that a big issue? Okay, there was all kinds of confusion about who should clean the cafe, but I didn't read the lease. But it's very specific in the report, and we all read it. It says the lease states that it's the cafe's responsibility to clean the cafe. And it's the library's responsibility to clean outside the cafe. But during the life of the cafe, it became an issue. I don't see why it became an issue. And here's something else that jumped off the page. Food preparation equipment, storage requirements, and related unresolved operational needs were not defined adequately during contract negotiation. How can you open a cafe without those kind of things having been negotiated and defined adequately? Moving on. There are obviously lots of problems with the library staff having a profit-making cafe in the library. And when I first became aware that there was going to be a cafe, I must admit, this is probably 2 or 3 years ago, I had a question and I don't really have the answer. And I still don't have the answer. But the thing that I had in my own mind is, can you have a profit-making entity with good old capitalism at work inside a library with a library that's not a profit-making entity? It's a taxpayer-funded entity. And I don't really know what the answer is, but the way things worked out with this, things just didn't work out. And it was a huge, and if you read the report, which we all did, that was something that precipitated a rift between the library and the people owning the cafe. And here's a couple of things that jumped off the page. According to some library staff, what was originally agreed upon with the cafe operations and procedures has not been upheld. Here's another one. The co-owners cited several hurdles making it difficult for the cafe to operate, all of which were not contemplated well enough in advance by the executive director or the board. Here's some other things that jumped off the page of that report. Tim Wiles admitted that his leniency with the cafe may have caused some of the conflict. I think that's probably a real big understatement. Mr. Wiles was partial to the cafe and its success. Mr. Wiles overly tolerant to the cafe needs. And this next one, which in the report should be in big red capital letters and underlined. Libraries' poor communication and lack of monitoring staff appear to be a key issue. Communication, 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 and the lack thereof is sprinkled throughout that report. And here's another one that I just find hard to believe. Dissolution of regular department head meetings impacted the level of communication. Meetings stopped 1.5 years ago. How can you run a library without having department head meetings? You got about 70 employees in this library. How do you keep everybody on the same page and fulfilling the mission statement that you have in front of you with 70 employees? Where I come from, you have department head meetings. I don't have any idea how you can get away not having department head meetings. The President of the United States has department head meetings. It's called cabinet meetings down in Washington, D.C. Now, here's a real beauty. The Grubhub package, and we can't go into details of the Grubhub package, but that Grubhub package, what a total fiasco. Okay, the owners of the library, or of the cafe, ordered a package, and it arrived on January 2nd. And they didn't see it. So they think it was stolen, and they ended up calling the police, which tells me that at that point, the communication between the cafe owners and the library is totally fractured. Because they ended up calling the police thinking something was stolen. And there's all kinds of accusations running around that Lou Warner, the maintenance supervisor, stole it, or he's keeping it hidden, and all this other information. All I know is I wasn't there, but there was the fact that the package arrived on January 2nd, and the package was found in a storage room on January 9th. So a whole week went by. Now, if communication was wide open, I would have thought that the cafe owners would feel comfortable going at either the director, Tim Wiles, or somebody on his staff saying, hey, we had a delivery, we don't know where it is, we think it's someplace in the building. That all took place on January 9th, but it took a whole week. You know, I read that Grubhub package, and through my mind went, I thought I was reading like an Abbott and Costello comedy routine. You know, the comedy routine where it's who's on first, what's on second, I don't know what's on third. Couple other points. I'm almost done. The cafe was underperforming, which is no surprise to me, because I'm here frequently, and when that cafe was open, more often than not, there weren't many people in the cafe. Once in a while, I see 7 or 8 people in there. But a lot of times you'd walk by at prime time, 10 o'clock in the morning, 10:30 in the morning, and you might see 1 or 2 people in there. So it's no surprise to me that they were underperforming, which is too bad for them. Obviously, you know, for the 2 ladies that ran it, they came here expecting to make money and have it be a successful thing. But the long and short of it is, the cafe's history wasted a lot of money, over $92,000 spent by the library to renovate that room to make it cafe ready. Another $15,000 on the racism study. That's unfortunate. And just a couple other things. I know on that website, the trustees put together a list of recommendations. And one recommendation really came off the page. One of them is, and it's a good recommendation, create key performance indicators for the executive director and conduct regular evaluations of the executive director and the managerial staff. Which tells me that's not being done right now. This library's been open since 1957. This building has been around since 1992. In the last 10 or 15 years, you haven't done performance evaluations. Where I come from, we call them yearly appraisals. You haven't done performance evaluations for the people that work in the library. At a very minimum, you should be doing performance, I would think, performance evaluations for the director and the managerial staff. Because how do people know where they sit within the organization without an annual performance evaluation? I mean, the director, Tim Wiles, he's knocking down over 100 grand, and you don't give him, he doesn't sit in one of your executive sessions and go through a yearly performance evaluation. I find that to be incredible. And lastly, because I've talked to a lot of people over the past few years, I'll end with this. To a large extent, in the community, you know, the library has a reputation of not being a great place to work. And as we all know, about 6 months ago, a lady by the name Luann put an article in the Audubon Enterprise about low morale. But it's common knowledge that there's a lot of low morale among some of the employees, not all, obviously, but some of the employees that work in the library, which isn't good. And I'll make one last comment. I think it would be a good idea if you could pull it off. I know a lot of people were talked to by these people that did this report, because they spoke to a lot of people and they did a lot of work. It's obviously it's a very long report. But if you went go back to about the year 2017, 2018, to get a good sample. Get a list of every person who worked in this library who no longer works here. And bring them in one at a time in your executive sessions and ask them each one individually following 3 questions. When you worked at the library, what did you like about working here? When you worked at the library, what didn't you like about working here? And why did you leave? And trust me, some of the answers you're not going to like, but it would be good to hear it. Now, some people will just have normal responses. You know, people left because my spouse got transferred to Syracuse, or I got another job at another library because my commute was a lot less. But some of the answers are going to be disturbing. That's the end. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments.
Thanks for your comments.
Do you have any online or email or comment cards or?
No comment cards off.
Maybe. Do we have personnel actions?
No personnel actions.
Okay.
I feel like this is the first time that's like ever happened.
That's why I was like,
Okay, it's-
I was double checking. So maybe I missed
Can't
it.
remember the time I've been here, ever having.
No, it was usually something. That's a good sign.
We just have all-
Things are calming down, yeah. All right, George, you got the next 2. So you got treasurer's report.
All
Check
right, so
register.
it should be in your packages. We'll look at the financial statements first. The finance committee did meet at 5:30 and review them. I think I got them sent out either Monday probably. So looking at the statement of net position, also known as the balance sheet, you know, the thing that was just kind of noticeable was there were some changes in our NBT accounts going back a couple of months ago because of a potential, one of the accounts was potentially compromised. So just to be overly cautious, we changed all of the accounts. So I think the balances are setting back down where they're invested now. So on line 1, we had cash and cash equivalents of about 120,000, which they do manage, and they sweep the money in as it's needed to cover payroll and accounts payable. Short-term investments we'll look at on the investment report. We had about $2.9 million. Prepaid expenses are mostly insurance, and I believe that we also pay CDPHP a month. It's due before the beginning of the month, so that's in that number. But I think overall, there's not a lot of significant changes. I think all the accounts are, you know, with those exceptions, they've been running pretty steady. On the statements of revenue, expenses, and changes in net position, there's just a couple of things. On line 10, professional fees, it is over budget in a month, and we talked about that's mostly because of the independent counsel report, as well as the ongoing retainer for the legal. And I think we paid something to the accountants as they continue on with their work. I think when we look at a year-to-date basis, we're about $86,000 favorable on operating expenses. And if you add up the first 3, the biggest line items, salaries and wages, fringe benefits, and payroll taxes, and library materials, that's just about $86,000, give or take a little bit. So it's really in those categories. And I think we've seen in the past that the library materials, often there's a little lag in the purchases, and it sort of picks up throughout the year. So everything else is pretty much netting out to zero. Non-operating revenue, the interest and investment income is within $39 on a year-to-date basis, a little unfavorable for the month, but there's just the timing of when we receive the interest income. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that we've talked about. I don't think so. Should we just go through them all, or do you want to pause and do whatever?
Does anybody have any questions on the treasurer's report? You mean before you go to check register?
Yeah, that's a good idea. Thank you.
Any questions on treasurer's reports? I think most of the finance committees, the folks that are here, so there you go.
It's true. More than 50%, I think. That's interesting.
There you go. So
Can't always say that. I think the check register we looked at, we had a couple of questions. We talked a little bit about, there was a fairly large expense for I can't remember where it was, the RFID maintenance that we're actually, we pay it once a year, but they extended it for a couple of years. So we pay a couple of months. Yeah, sorry. Seem to be doing that a lot lately, I've been told. So it is a prepaid expense for 14 months.
For what?
It's the,
The RFID equipment,
Oh, gotcha.
for check in and check out.
All right.
they were just gonna check into the retiree health insurance expenses to make sure we're treating that appropriately. I think that was the only things that we talked about. I didn't think there was anything too unusual on the report.
I like the descriptions on here. I feel like they paint a better picture now.
Yes, I do too, actually. Which is probably why just things jump out at you and everything more so than before. Before, I guess you could make assumptions that the Boyle piano service probably had something to do with the piano, but now you know exactly what it is. So,
I appreciate that change.
yeah.
There's no finance.
And just the staff does that when they put it out, and I think it is helpful.
I guess thanks, Jackie or David.
Thanks, Jackie and David. They took that suggestion and ran with it.
I appreciate it. Does anybody have any questions on the check registry?
No.
Registers. Okay, so it looks like we do have a call for a vote to approve the check registry for September 2024. Do I have a motion to approve? We have a second. Bill, like a second. All right. Any other discussion? All right, all in favor of approving the check register for September 2024? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstaining? All right. Board passes it. George?
The investment report.
Yeah, do we do that now?
Yeah,
Is
you
that
can
on
go.
the agenda?
Yeah. It's not on it, but yeah.
I believe it's part of the treasurer's report.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Well, whatever. So, there's a summary on the first page of the book balances that we have, and then we attach copies of the first page, basically, of the all the reports that we get, just so that, you can actually see that, where they are. And I look at it, just make sure that it's reasonable and everything. And I guess the biggest change, which was expected, was that the IntraFi account that we have about $1.5 million, which is an NBT product. There's the detail of it attached. It was paying about 5.15%, and with the changes in the Fed fund rate, which went down about 0.5%, it dropped a very similar amount, a little bit more, but about the same, which is something that, we expected the interest rates would go down over the course of the year. And actually, when I put the budget together, I kind of projected decreases, and I tried to do the budget based on the balance that we would have invested at any given time. So I figured out that sometime in October, or the beginning of November, we'd bring money in, and we talked about it at the finance committee. And I think that when we get the first tax levy, we are going to just slide it into the IntraFi account so that it's available. And then at some point, the finance committee might look at longer term, whether it would be worth putting something, into longer term investments. But the fact is the rates are gonna reflect the fact that there's an overall feeling that the rates are gonna be dropping and everything. So it's not like you could get a 5% CD for a year and a half or whatever. So the rate dropped, all the details are attached. They are shifting around the accounts. Everything's been transferred into new accounts because of the potential breach and compromise of the accounts. There's a little negative balance that was just something that happened where they charged us a fee that they have to get reversed. And when I first looked at the operating account, I couldn't understand why we had a book balance of 94,000 and there was 43,000 ending balance in that account. But on the next page, the old account is there, which is about 63,000, which is in the about 62,000, which is in the process of being transferred. So between those two balances, it's a little bit more than the operating account because of outstanding checks things, but it was reasonable. So I think that's it on the investment report. And again, everything, IntraFi accounts, they're split out into CDs less than 250,000. So they're covered by FDIC, and all of the CDs that we have are less than that. And then we get security on any balance that's greater than that, which right now isn't any of the balances. That's it. I can't remember if you accept that or do anything with it or whatever. No.
Thank you for your update. Cool. Does anybody have anything financially related before we move on to the directors and department heads report? All right. You're up.
All right. I'll go a little bit off menu from the narrative report. Just to start, you may notice an absence tonight. Amy Dubray is still at home with her husband, recovering from his beginning of treatment for leukemia. So we all are thinking of Amy. She does a tremendous amount of work here at the library. I can say that firsthand because I've been doing her job for the past week and a half. And her service is really invaluable. So she is missed, and thank you to everyone for their patience as I pulled together the whole report this month. So hopefully next month will be a little bit smoother. The other big news of the month of September was at the very end of the month, as we released the guidepost report into the cafe closure. It was published to the website on September 30th. We spent a lot of time putting in effort to make sure that there were multiple avenues for community feedback, patron feedback. We also spent a lot of time, the staff were a little nervous about releasing the report and addressing feedback. So I want to compliment the entire staff. They were incredibly resilient, did a wonderful job preparing and getting ready for the report's release. When I wrote the director's report on October 11th, we had not received any feedback through the email or our phone line. Both are still available for specific community feedback into the guidepost report. We have moved the report to the Board of Trustees webpage. I provided the link in the report, but if you look for the annual reports, the long range plan and other board documents, that is where the report lives. Hiring. We have spent a lot of time this month reviewing applicants for our vacancies. I'm extraordinarily pleased with the quality of candidates we're getting. We have 2 open librarian positions. We have our human resources manager. We're getting really, that's why this is taking so long. It's a lot to go through their qualifications, and meeting these folks has been great. We have offers out on 3 of our open positions, so I hope to have some personnel actions next month as we onboard some new people. The next position we'll be filling is the marketing specialist position. Part of that role will be backing up our administrative assistants so that we're a little more resilient in some other areas in administration. We are in the process of exploring a change for our payroll and timekeeping software. I made a proposal to the finance committee just before this. We are severely limited by our current solutions, so we're looking for something with a little more support, some better features. One Once we have identified and agreed to move to a new service, implementation will take a minimum of 2 months, possibly 3 months, but that'll include training up our staff and getting everyone prepared to hop to the next service. Before I go to major events coming up, other internal things we're working on, we're reinvigorating our training program here at the library. So we've done a couple of Code Adam trainings for missing children. We'll be doing trainings for police response and things that require, high stress situations. So these will be really good, again, to help our staff be a little more resilient. These aren't fun things to plan for, but during our drills, we got to send staff members out to pretend to be kids and the staff had to find them. So we tried to make it as fun as we could. The other things we'll be working on with our staff are we're implementing our new dress code. That will go into effect mid-November. Contrary to popular fears, not everyone will have to dress like me when they come to the office. We want people to show a little bit of personality, a little bit of individuality. So we will be professionalizing the dress code a bit, but still a lot of room for individualism, which we like. It is important to us. Major events coming up that everyone should be aware of. Read or Treat, formerly known as Trunk or Treat, is coming up at the end of the month. We have some good partnerships with the fire department and the police. The police will actually be handling our traffic in the parking lot, which is a huge load off the staff. We expect anywhere, we've had 600 attendees for Trunk or Treat previously. We're expecting it's on a Saturday. We could get 800, we could get 1,000. Don't want to oversell it, but it should be a really good time and a really good turnout. So it'll be October 26th. Just in general, anytime we do an event that has the potential to disrupt traffic on Western Avenue, the police like to know about it. So just kind of keep that in your back pocket in the future. And then we have early voting coming up October 26th through Sunday, November 3rd, and then election day is November 5th. So the Helzberg room will be offline, the voting machines will be in there. Just one of those things that's really important to center the library as a gathering place in the community. So it's additional work for the staff. It's a little bit of logistical headache, but it's worth doing. And the Board of Elections is always really happy to be here, which is good. I want to keep them that way. So I think that's it for my report, Alish.
Can I just, I'm just curious how the dress code has been received by the staff?
A little bit challenging. I've never worked any place where rolling out a dress code is a popular decision. We had several meetings, myself and Nate Heyer, our assistant director, to talk to staff about their concerns and help clarify things. There are always, individual questions. Is this particular outfit okay? Is this particular thing okay? But I think once staff had a chance to ask about their individual concerns, that really helped it land a little bit better. And also to kind of hear our philosophy. It's really important to me that, being a librarian is a professional job. Many of us have advanced degrees. Those of us that don't dedicate a lot of time to this profession. And I want the staff to feel like they're professionals. I want them to feel like they're exuding and commanding a certain level of respect from the people who come in. And I think a dress code helps them feel that way. So hearing the philosophy and not just having it handed to them, I think was also really helpful. So glad we did it.
I like the name Pizza Party.
Yeah, we did a reading program for, kind of like the summer reading program for the patrons. We did an internal reading program, and for those of you who didn't book it at Pizza Hut, the reward is a pizza party if you meet your reading goals. So we did the pizza party using my name for pizza. So that'll be at the end of the month. We're looking forward to it.
The reader treat thing, how is that going to be organized in the library?
Oh, it's going to be really cool, actually. So we are going to be doing it inside the main library. The shelving that's directly in front of this room with our DVDs and some of the books is movable. So we'll be moving it into the stacks. They slide right into the individual stacks. And then our current plan is to have the patrons and guests come in through the main door. The tables that they will be trick-or-treating at will be set up in the center in a kind of a oblong shape so that they go around it. And then as they exit and get all their candy, they'll actually exit through this room where we'll have an opportunity to sign up for library cards. And for those people who show us their library card, while supplies last, they'll be getting an official Rufus squeezy toy that we, have for outreach and marketing purposes. And then they'll exit at the fire door.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, last year it got really
Yeah,
crowded
so I
in
like
there.
that.
Yeah, no, it was very important to many of us that I think, organizing lines isn't necessarily fun, but I think when you do it, people
You
have a
have
better
to.
time.
So the read part of the reader treat, is there any specific read part of the reader treat, or is it just,
So part of it is thematic. So we are actually decorating our tables to be literary themed. Some of the board members who signed up already, one of you who's not here tonight, is dressing up like Pete the Cat. So that'll be a little bit fun. Not me, I'll be dressed like an inflatable dinosaur. But yeah, we wanted to add that element to it and also kind of encourage people to sign up for a library card and become regular library patrons. That was a suggestion from the foundation, which we were happy to receive.
Well, my inflatable dinosaurs won last year, so just,
Oh, man, now I gotta get a whole different idea.
I'm very excited about it. I'll be having the table.
Yes, yeah, you've got a table set up this year. It's excellent. It's not too late if anybody else wants to sign up. George, I know you're looking for.
You're dying to dress up as a dinosaur.
I can't do it this year, but as tribute, I did send Albany Rock to Natalie's way, so hopefully they'll do a table, because they're very cool.
Excellent.
So they run a great program. All right, any other takeaways from the other department reports you want to mention, or just encourage people to read it?
I encourage people to read it. There's a lot of really good content in there, especially around our individual programs that we did this year. The programming team has been knocking it out of the park. And story times came back this month, so.
I read it was really uplifting. So many great things that are in these pages, feel fun is going on with it. Despite the guidepost solutions and all that stuff, I still think this is really what the core of the library. I think they do a really great job.
Yeah, thanks to the staff for toughing it out and bracing for a potential tough situation, but I did come in and check in with some folks and it sounded like it was relieving.
Sunshine Committee, how was that during?
In general, they're doing okay. I think there's a lot of opportunity to kind of reimagine how they want to conduct kind of morale activities. But in terms of their mission of building up staff morale, I think they're still doing a bang up job. I found out, I haven't been here a year yet, so I didn't know this. Apparently, if you've been here a year, you get candy from the Sunshine Committee. So that's a kid's coming. It's coming.
And the funding for that is coming from, how's the funding for that Sunshine Committee?
They do internal fundraising. So during election day, they're actually doing a bake sale. So for voters coming in, election day could be a fun day, could be an unpleasant day. They can buy a sweet treat on their way out the door.
And then there's like a craft something, right?
There's a craft fair coming up in November. And the vendor fees go towards helping support the Sunshine Committee.
Grateful. Any other questions for Pete on the director's report?
Just the library conference coming up in November. What type of attendance are we gonna have at that?
I believe there's 4 of us going this year. I'm going. What we try to do for conferences, we try to send new employees and then we try to send employees who might do like a presentation, because if they're doing a presentation, their cost gets defrayed a little bit. So this year there's 4 of us, myself, Natalie, and 2 of our librarians from public services.
Right, just my key watch for that is, and I mentioned this last year, but we have long range business, long range plan coming up. I just expect to hear a lot coming out of that meeting in terms of all the things that are in here, which to me is like, this is pretty full library activities. But on top of this, what are things that are being made, at a New York statewide library thing that speak to avenues we could look at for the long range plan? Because I just really, I mean, I beat this and I just sort of at a loss for a lot of things to do on that. But I'm interested to hear what you guys bring back from that other libraries are doing, whether it's the Library Association and if there's contacts global, national. And can add to that discussion.
Absolutely. And I think the great thing about these conferences, we really want our staff to be aspirational. You know, it's one thing to come in day to day and get through kind of their daily work, but we want them dreaming about what are the big things that excite them. So yeah, I'm hoping to get us a lot of good ideas and conversation out of this.
Okay, very cool. Thanks, Pete. All right, moving on to committee reports, starting with finance.
Yeah, so we did meet today at 5:30. Most of what we talked about was already addressed with the finance, check register, and the investment opportunities. We know the tax levy will be coming in sometime before November. We will be having the budget for that increase in cost for the new payroll system. And potential for grants for roof repair and maybe new solar panels. And that was about it.
Personnel, myself, don't know, did my email get to anybody? Because I feel like.
I've not seen it. Yeah.
Okay, I sent it twice. I think I have some issues because I have a work computer and it's like super secure. So sometimes I have to go a roundabout way of like emailing myself and then forwarding it, but I think it still causes issues. So I'll try to send it one more time, but I will give an overview. I have nothing that needed to be voted on today, but as for an update, related to one of the comments Ray brought, we did go over the short-term and long-term goals for the director. The way I went about this was I actually solicited Pete to give me what he felt his goals should be based on the person, you know, who should know the position the best, being here on the ground. And he did break it down into 7 sections: personnel, finance, cafe space, sustainability, relationships, marketing, outreach, and statistics. And then committee members provided their thoughts on the goals that were spelled out, and then we clarified them, whittled it down to what was reasonable to expect by February, when the like halfway mark kind of kicks in, and then what would be a longer range goal. So that will be what got emailed to you, but I'll try to send it again and make sure it goes through. But it is broken down. I retyped them up by short-term versus long-term goals per section. So when you see short-term, think the goal is to have that done by February, and it is a measurable goal. So, you know, reaching out to point people in the community, we identified 1 person per group that was mentioned: local government, school district, chamber of commerce, et cetera. Some of the short-term goals are, I'll just say them since we don't have them. You know, soliciting the bids for the new payroll timekeeping benefits, whatever platform we're going to use for that software wise. We have diagnosing the roof issue with a long-term goal of getting that repaired. For the cafe space, short-term goal is starting to solicit community feedback, staff and trustee feedback on what should be done with the space. The long-term goal of making recommendations to the board after kind of collecting that data and planning and budgeting around that. Short-term goals of hiring an HR manager and a marketing personnel, with long-term goals being them developing their respective plans for their jobs, for social media, print media, programming, et cetera, and outreach strategies. Short-term goal of establishing benchmarks for performance on circulation, door count, program attendance, et cetera. Also, you know, some long-term goals that people might find interesting is we brought the discussion back up on the book sales that were very popular and have come up a couple times. So just letting people know that that is on our radar as well. We're also in the short term looking at ways to establish reporting guidelines for performance issues and violations in conjunction with the HR manager once hired and our lawyers to figure out a good process for fielding any kind of performance or complaint issues. And then long-term onboarding procedures and think those are probably the biggest call outs there that people find interesting. Yeah, so did that in our initial meeting. I retyped it up with the feedback. He's going to review those and then we're gonna formally check those off at our next meeting. We have set a recurring meeting up for the first Thursday of every month. So at the next meeting, we'll go over the cleaned up goals and then present them to the board for approval because it has to be a full board approval vote on those goals. And then we will figure out how to conduct the performance evaluation. Corey submitted some procedural things around that based on how she gets evaluated at her job, since it is comparable. So that is what's come out of that, and I will try to get that over to the policy around it. And my notes were short. It was just we went to executive session and the meeting ended an hour and 4 minutes later. So that's it for personnel. Going on to facilities.
Right, we had our meeting, we talked about the roof leak. Jason wasn't really able to come up with a solution from the roofers that he talked with on that. And so it is still there. Hard to assess in the dry period that we had from mid-September, mid-August to late September. You sort of need to have it raining in order to be able to get anybody in to say what's going on there and trace it. So that's a stumbling block, but we suggested that he talk to not just roofers, but to maybe the dampness renovation type people that fix basements and things like that that run into water damage to see what their insights on it might be. So we thought we'd give that one more month to crack down, and then it looks like if we can't really find anybody to give us an answer on that, we're going to start looking at what the roof replacement options will be, and in that would be the skylight replacement options, and we'll take it from there in terms of where we go with that next week. The HVAC, there was a lot of issues over the last year about variations in HVAC and throughout the building. It turns out that there's a software program that Jason spent some time working on that controls the various units of the library itself. And when he made the adjustments on that, he was able to resolve pretty much the HVAC issues. So we're going to have any big issue on replacing the HVAC. There is the issue of the individual thermostats where people can override what Jason does, but he basically has sent around guidance to the staff as to what the process would be for changing the wall-mounted thermostat as opposed to what's been set on the computer, to have the discussion about why that needs to be done and what be affected by it. There was also over the last year some statements of gas smells in the children's area that seemed to die away for a while, but it came back when the roof heater started up. They're on the roof. The heaters are for that space are on the roof right now, and the way they're positioned in proximity, it looks like one of them is kicking on. The gas exhaust that's associated with the burners is actually getting sucked into the other system up there and coming in. And so Jason was going to look at making adjustments to the system and trying out some filters to see if we can get it to resolve that way. There are more expensive filter options if that doesn't work though. That seems to be what the issue is there. And so we're trying to run that one to ground. Jason and his team, he's got a full team now, have done a lot of work and put a lot of pride into like the front display as you walk in the library here, and then the back courtyard, sprucing that up to make it more attractive to our patrons. Talk about used book facility. Mike Puspers gave a presentation on the Boardingville arrangement. They have a couple of sheds that are located in very close proximity to their main building. We talked about what that would involve for our library here, but it's just not clear that that's an ideal situation for what we're looking for. And then that raises the question, well, what exactly are we looking for and how are we going to run it? And so we felt that this was a topic that probably needed to get thrown into the long-range planning process to get feedback on what people think about book sales. Seemed to be a popular item with the number of comments that we've had over the last year. And how do we get that going again and make, make an investment that's suitable to what the patrons want and expect on that before we commit to try and exactly copy what Voorheesville is doing. And the Voorheesville thing is run. There's a lot of friends involved and volunteer involvement in that. We're going to need to get no matter any solution, I think, around the book sale is going to need to have some type of volunteer support to make it run, and how we're going to do that, who's going to step up for it is a question that needs to be discussed. The wall murals, Mike gave a presentation as well on the various spaces that we have available. Quite a few, a lot more than I thought, to tell you the truth. Where you could put artwork, and he talked with the commercial farm and the high school, and you could make some arrangement where they did the high parts and the school did the low parts, and came up with a combination of various, murals or art type of decoration on that. But that raised the question of, with all the different wall space, I thought it was just this wall space up here, to tell you the truth, when we were talking about it. But with the extensive wall space that Mike actually presented, the discussion came about, are we really talking about murals on all the walls? Because it look like a bunch of tattoos all over the wall by the time you're done, or are we talking about decor and various inputs for putting decor around here to break up the corporate feeling that we have by the current color scheme? And so once again, this led to a discussion of what we really want to do here, and what stakeholders do we want to get involved in this for the various spaces. And once again, we thought, well, that's probably an item that needs to be kicked into the long-range planning process to get some input from various stakeholders on doing that. The cafe disposition, we were sort of running out of time by the time we got to this one, but there was at the meeting no clear way forward on that. And as you talked about, and you set up your goals and objectives, coming up some utilization of that space, whether it's for a cafe or some formulation of a cafe, is something that's going to take a lot more work than we had at that meeting. So that's just something that's going to take a little more elbow grease in terms of how we're going to figure out how we move forward with that. I put out the request to see if there was a secondary market for the equipment that we own there. Find out in terms of alternatives that we have, what is the market for that? And then I'd just like to point out that Jason and his team are doing a nice job. He seems like a really square guy in terms of running this. He's a lot of fun, lots of great stuff. He really projects a lot of confidence in terms of the discussions that we had. Appreciated it. So that was facilities. Any questions, comments?
Got a lot done in that hour and 20 minutes.
Yes.
Yeah, I put Mike in contact with the person I was in contact with when we were originally starting the murals for it's kind of a nonprofit organization. They do work with their own artists, so I don't know how that would work with the art department. Because when we had originally reached out to them, or Tim had, they weren't interested at the time. So it sounds like they changed their mind. But yeah,
They weren't interested in getting up on ladders, I think.
On
That was
ladders, yeah.
the big thing, and at the lower space. So there still is an option to get them involved, but it's like, once again, there's a lot of wall space here, and exactly how we're going to address this with part of it. I just think it needs broader. Just given the canvas that we have here of a building, and it is a relatively corporate space, but once you put stuff up there, it's you got to make sure people are going to be happy with it for a long time.
governance.
The governance committee met yesterday. I circulated minutes earlier today, so hopefully people got that. Our primary focus yesterday was on the social media and public comment policies, and they were just trying to make sure that they are legally compliant, and also that they kind of match up with the guidance and kind of best practices from the ALA. And so we spent most of our time going over that, and I'm working on doing a revision of our policy based on the committee discussions. Marcia also circulated a draft new investment policy, and it's not really a revision, it's kind of a wholesale kind of brand new, policy. She based it on the policies of several of the other libraries in the area, and as well as just the requirements of New York law on our, permissible investments and things. And so she circulated that to the committee, and so that'll be a topic for discussion on our next committee meeting. I am optimistic that we will have at least a couple policies to present to the full board next month. So hopefully, I think we're on track for that now. So that's all.
All right. Anything for the nominations committee, Barbara? I think you're muted.
No, actually, that really probably shouldn't even be on the, on our schedule until, there's a vacancy on the board, or we're getting closer to nominations for next year.
All right. Long-range planning, Corey is not here. I know they have not met. I'm on that committee. We do have a meeting set up for the 29th of this month, so we'll have an update for you next time. Board development.
Yeah, so I've been emailing Tim Burke, and he just got back to me after not responding for quite a while. He did apologize. I think the email kind of missed somehow, I don't know. He got back to me just before this meeting, and I didn't get to digest fully what he said to me. Because I asked him about some opportunities for training for the board. We could do another training on officer OML, what is that? Public officers law or something?
Open meetings law.
Open meetings law.
What?
Open meeting.
Open meetings law. I know that we've done it already, but there's another opportunity if people have missed that to do that one. And there's also another opportunity to do the, let me just see what he said. I think it was a finance 101 training, which me, Alicia, and I think Corey attended, I think maybe Marcia too. So, but not everyone attended. So I'm not sure. I think I'm going to put something together to see what people are interested in, because he also sent me a link to a website, which again, I haven't had a chance to look at since I just got this email. And then I'll just circulate that at the next meeting, see what people are interested in, and then we can do what Barbara did last time she was chair, and sort of people can pick whatever they want to attend. That's all I have. I think I did want to mention that it was mentioned last time Alicia's buying treats for us. Not that she has to, but if she does, I think that she should submit the receipt for reimbursement from the board development fund. And I think we had all agreed that that's okay.
I mean, I really don't.
I'd be fine also, I don't know if, but just like, chipping in, if a bunch of board members want to just chip in, so she's not paying the whole cost. I don't know if it needs to come out of the board development fund, or just individual board members throwing in a few dollars to kind of defray the cost for that. I'd be fine either way.
Yeah, I'd be the same either way, but maybe if you bring it in, what was, one person will pay that week or something. I don't know how I got the change. The cash register.
I'll set up my Venmo.
I think the fund is there, and I don't think we're taking any like team building activity excursions anytime soon. So I don't see why we can't spend a few bucks on, it's not extravagant stuff.
that would be later. I don't know.
Okay.
Work through the
I was
mechanics.
happy to do it. but
No,
Yeah,
I know, but it's like you don't have
if you
to.
feel strongly, then I'll take it back. No worries. I'm happy to bring them. Sorry, there's not more spider donuts. I was trying to go with the theme.
Yeah, you should. There's not any in there. Definitely.
All right, cool. So cafe investigation.
We have not met this month. That's mostly on me, just from lack of time and not getting something scheduled, but I will get that scheduled very soon because we, through the legwork that mostly Bill did, we have the draft kind of report, and now that the other report is out, I think we can try and get this finished up and out as well, just to get that over and done with, tied up. So I will be reaching out to the other committee members very shortly to schedule a meeting and try and move this to conclusion.
Great. Foundation, I unfortunately was not able to attend this time either. I did not get an email update back. So do you have an update?
Foundation met this month. Most of the conversation was around reader treat and also kind of their strategy for large fundraising efforts. A lot of idea generation. Nobody's landed on like, we're gonna do X yet. But there was.
To replace the golf tournament.
Yeah, or to supplement it or other options. We kind of walked them through the same thing I walked you all through with how we can modify the space to use it as a gala space or as an event space. And I also cautioned them that if we ever use it as a party space, that they factor in cleaning, just because that's always a mess and when you do a gala in a library. So
Are the Friends, between the Friends and the Foundation, what's the difference between them?
So in most libraries, the way they divide them is the foundation is a nonprofit organization and they do the large scale events and the larger scale fundraising. So like reaching out to large donors or reaching out to doing giving campaigns. Friends groups typically do smaller scale events. So they do book sales, they do stores.
Are they the same people or are they?
In an ideal world, you want them to be two separate groups because they'll have two separate missions. And typically the foundation is either an appointed or an elected board or a paid board, and the Friends are strictly volunteers. My last library, we had a Friends group that operated, like a foundation. It's really two separate skill sets. So it's ideal to have two separate groups.
But is there a lot of overlap between our current foundation and our current Friends?
There's no overlap just because the foundation isn't doing any Friends activity. So in a sense, this is going to be a terrible answer. In a sense, there's total overlap because we only have a foundation at the moment. So anything that the Friends could be doing, the foundation would do.
But we don't have a Friend.
We don't have a Friends group. As you mentioned, if we're scaling up donations and book sales, we would want to scale up our Friends group first.
How many people are on the foundation?
I've never seen a full quorum. I believe it's a board of maybe 9, kind of the same size as this board.
Board.
It's a board. Yep.
Group. It's only a board.
We do have the Friends group on the director goals, so.
Yep.
That will hopefully be resolved.
Okay. I'll just, I
Soon.
get them mixed up. I go from library to library.
Yep, depending on the size of your library, you might have 1, you might have 2, you might have none.
All right, and UHLS, Corian is not here. I believe they're doing something tonight or next week. I don't know, there's something going on. I think it's tonight.
Is it? Because if it is,
It's
she's
not-
not there.
If it's not tonight, it's next week. She has 2 different things going on. I forget which week is what, but something's coming up soon, so I'm sure she'll give us an update next time. And that's it for the committee reports. So going on to the next item for old business, I did not have anything, but does anybody have any old business to go over, discuss? Nope. All right. Any new business? All right, make it easy on me. Is there any additional public input? Have you gotten anything, Keith?
I have not received anything. Let me double check.
Check the
Nothing.
Facebooks. Anybody in the room have any other comment All right. And I don't think we are in need of an executive session either, so that is it for the meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
All right, we got a first. Do we have a second? All right, all in favor of ending the meeting at 7:08 p.m.?
First time I've been to win
Okay.
7 minutes.
What can I say? Keep it efficient.
On.
Wish I could take credit for that. We just have a lot going on right now. That's fine.
That's it, ready?
Nice.
Bye, Barbara.